Paul George suspended for 25 games for violating the NBA's drug policy, whatever they call it, anti-doping, whatever they call it. And I was like, what better way to get people to come over to the backup channel than to post this on my Instagram stories and Twitter and everything. So shout out to 56 people in here. Shout out to 63 people in here. This is the backup channel. And tonight also the Sixers postgame live show is going to be on this channel. And hopefully we'll have the main channel back by Monday, but we will see. So listen, on the Paul George front, man, we're just going to find out together what's going on. We're just going to find out together what's going on. I put up a poll because I don't know the answers yet. I don't know if anybody knows the answers yet, but I put up a poll here. It's pinned at the top of the chat. What was Paul George suspended for? Performance-enhancing drugs, weed, or coke? All right? I'll tell you what my answer is. I'll tell you what my guess is. Straight off the rip, without even reading anything, without even seeing the Shams tweet, I'm going to tell you what my answer is. My answer is weed. All right? My blind guess as to why Paul George got suspended for violating the NBA's drug policy, my blind guess is weed, bro. My blind guess is weed. Is weed still a thing they get suspended for in the NBA? Wait, is that a thing? Hold on. We got to find out if they still get suspended for weed in the NBA, because if they don't, then that doesn't make any sense. Do NBA players still get suspended for weed? I think maybe there was something a couple years ago that weed wasn't it. Yes, NBA players can still be suspended or disciplined under the league's anti-drug policies. But the situation with marijuana specifically has changed significantly in recent years. Under the new collective bargaining agreement agreed to by the NBA and the Players Union in 2023, marijuana is no longer on the league's list of banned substances for random drug tests. This means the NBA does not routinely test players for weed, and they are not automatically suspended for using weed. Okay, but you said they still can be suspended for using weed. NBA players can still be suspended or disciplined under the anti-drug policies. But okay, so they can't be suspended for marijuana anymore, so I shouldn't have put that. I shouldn't have put that in the poll. Even though cannabis itself isn't a banned substance, players can still face discipline if they are under the influence during games, practices, meetings, or team activities. That's similar to the rule for alcohol. You can use it off the clock, but not be impaired on the job. The league or team believes a player has a substance dependence issue, which can trigger an evaluation. Okay, I don't think these apply to Paul George, although I don't know the exacts. There are legal issues surrounding possession, public use, or state law violations, like when Montrezl Harrell had 30 pounds of marijuana in the trunk of a car. So players can't be suspended for testing positive for weed. So that's not a thing. So that I had that pinned at the top of the chart. I guess weed is not the answer. My guess was weed because Paul George plays like he's high. Paul George's nonchalant, I don't give a fuck attitude is that of a weed smoker. And I'm no offense to anybody that smokes weed out there, but Paul George plays basketball like he smokes weed. All right? So that was my guess, but I forgot that you can't even be suspended for that in the NBA. So we've narrowed it down to performance-enhancing drugs or Coke. All right, Coca-Cola. For the YouTube bots, we're discussing Coca-Cola. All right, for the algorithm or the AI that's going to knock this down for talking about drugs. PEDs or Coca-Cola. Those are the two things we've narrowed it down to for Paul George. Now, to me, he doesn't play like he's on Coca-Cola, okay? If you told me Kelly Oubre was on Coca-Cola, I would believe you. I don't believe you if you tell me Paul George is on the Coca-Cola, okay? But how would it be PEDs? Because he's trash. It better not be PEDs, bro. Because if you're on performance-enhancing drugs and you're averaging 16 points per game, add that to the resume of embarrassing Paul George resume numbers, notes. So let's look at it. Let's go over to Twitter and let's look at it. Let's look at it. The funniest thing is I just tweeted like a couple of minutes ago, that the NBA should arrest Josh Harris. And I tweeted at the FBI. And I was like, please arrest Josh Harris for the Epstein files. Because I want the Sixers to have a different ownership really bad. Y'all know that. People are still saying weed. You can't get suspended in the NBA anymore for testing positive for weed unless you were high during a game or high at practice and they determined you were high. Now I guess we're not going to totally rule out. We're not going to totally rule out weed, because if you guys have ever watched Paul George's Podcast P, if you've ever watched Podcast P with Paul George, which is, by the way, the dumbest podcast title ever. Every time I hear it, it makes me mad, dude. Podcast P with Paul George. Podcast P is Paul George. How is the podcast titled Podcast P with Paul George? Podcast P is Paul George. But anyway, if you've ever watched the podcast, Paul George is on that podcast. What do the kids say? Off of the za? What do the kids say? Off of the za? He's high as freak when he's doing that podcast. So maybe Paul George showed up to practice and he was as high at practice as he is on the podcast. And maybe Nick Nurse seems like the type. Anyway, let's look at it, man. Where's Shams at? Let's go to Shams Charania. And when somebody DM'd me this, bro, I thought it was fake. I was like, there's no way this is real. But here's the original tweet from Shams. Just in, the NBA has suspended Philadelphia 76ers Paul George 25 games for violating the league's anti-drug policy. Would that be performance-enhancing drugs? Would that be... What would that even be, bro? Like, what would NBA players take that is banned by the NBA? You know? Like HGH or like straight testosterone. I mean, I guess that would be banned, right? They probably got doctors that give them stuff that flies under the radar. I would assume, much like baseball, and then when they started cracking down on it in baseball, and guys were getting other things from doctors that weren't on the radar yet, and they were getting away with it. And like, to be realistic, to not even be joking, to be realistic, I don't understand. I don't think peptides could be performance enhancing drugs, because peptides are literally amino acids. I mean, peptides are legitimately. From my understanding, I haven't researched peptides a lot, but peptides, from my understanding, is basically just whatever's in the building blocks of protein. They inject it into your bloodstream or into your muscles or whatever. I don't think peptides is technically performance-enhancing drugs. I think peptides is essentially like injecting amino acids into your muscle. But anyway, I could be wrong about that. I could definitely be wrong about that. But what was I saying? What was I saying, bro? Yeah, what do players take that could be banned that they get in trouble for? But I'm sure they have doctors that know things. But oh yeah, to be realistic here, and all jokes aside, I do want to say this. It's very possible that this is just something like that, right? Paul George had knee surgery in July, I believe. Arthroscopic surgery to clean up knee swelling. And he's been coming back from that. It was only supposed to take like 2 months for him to be healthy. It took him like 6 months to even get on the court, and then he played once a week, basically, and he still just calls off whenever he wants. But I guess it could be something that he took to try to speed up the recovery from the knee surgery. Okay, I don't know what that would be, but there could be something that he took that's on the NBA's banned list. Maybe it comes out that that's what it is. Now, if Paul George has a smart PR team, that's what they're going to say. They're going to say, listen, it was just a substance that we took to mitigate pain or swelling or whatever, and we didn't know it was on the ban list. If his PR team is smart, that's what they're going to say. I can't figure out what else it would be. Anyway, he's suspended 25 games for violating the league's anti-drug policy, okay? Here's a statement from Paul George. From Paul George. Shams got a statement from Paul George already. Paul George already talked to ESPN. PR is on top of it. PR is on the money. They're ready to go. They're ready. The damage control is in effect. Statement from 76ers Paul George to ESPN. Over the past few years, I've discussed the importance of mental health, and in the course of recently seeking treatment for an issue of my own, I made the mistake of taking an improper medication. I take full responsibility for my actions and apologize to the Sixers organization, my teammates, and Philly fans for my poor decision-making during the process. I am focused on using this time to make sure that my mind and body are in the best condition to help the team when I return. Jesus Christ, bro. All right. We could go 2 ways here. We could go 2 ways here. All right. The first way is his PR team just gave him a trigger word. I just said this the other day. When the Ben Simmons shit was going on, Ben Simmons knew, and his PR team knew, that nobody's allowed to argue against mental health, right? You refused to shoot the ball. The fans started booing you. You requested a trade. You refused to come back. Nobody's allowed to argue against mental health. So that's what you got to say. You got to say mental health. That's what you got to say, because nobody's allowed to argue it. That's option number one. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying, if you want to say something that's difficult for people to argue, especially in the mainstream media, ESPN won't touch it. Stephen A. Smith tiptoed the line with the Ben Simmons thing when he put mental health out. He really wanted to be like, no, this guy's a fucking fraud and he's lying. But he wouldn't say it, because you can't say it in the mainstream. You got to be PR. You got to be PC. You can't offend anybody. So it's possible that Paul George's PR team was like, hey, mental health. All you got to say, bro, mental health, and all is forgiven. So let's look at it again. Over the past few years, I've discussed the importance of mental health. When did you discuss this, Paul George? And in the course of recently seeking treatment for an issue of my own. Oh, my God. So Paul George now is a victim of mental health, and we got to feel bad for it. See, I'm not doing this, bro. What do they call this? Gaslighting? Is that what they call this? Gaslighting? I'm not even allowed to be angry at you for getting suspended for violating the drug policy. If you call it mental health issues right off the rip, I'm not allowed to be mad at you. Is that what you're trying to do to me? Fuck that. It's a trigger word, bro. I'm supposed to sit up here and believe Paul George has a mental health issue and he took a substance for mental health. What substance did you take, Paul George? Because I was on mental health medication. Can you believe that? As mild-tempered as I am, can you believe I was on mental health medication? I was on SSRIs for a couple of years, on and off for a couple of years. Zoloft. That's what I was on. You know what that shit does? Takes your personality away completely. Makes you a zombie. And honestly, the way Paul George plays in basketball games, that might be it. He might be on Zoloft. My question is, why would that be banned from the NBA's drug policy? It wouldn't. That doesn't make sense. If a player is struggling with mental health and a doctor prescribes one of the major SSRIs, Zoloft and a few others, how would those be banned by the NBA's anti-drug policy? That doesn't make sense. The NBA's anti-drug policy would already have major SSRIs in there so that if they have active players who do have depression, anxiety, etc., and are prescribed an SSRI to deal with depression and anxiety, they wouldn't fail the drug test. So you didn't take one of the major SSRIs that people take for depression and anxiety. So what'd you take? Why won't you just tell us, Paul George? Why won't you just tell us? I made the mistake of taking an improper medication. An improper medication. This is a PR response. This is a chat GPT-ass response. I made the mistake of taking an improper medication. And that's all the information we're going to get about it, by the way. It's not going to come out what happened. The NBA is not going to announce what it was. Paul George isn't going to announce what it was. I cannot believe this is the route that he took, but this is the route. This is the route. This is all you got to do. If you want to protect yourself in the public eye, if you want to protect your reputation as a professional athlete, as an actor, as a musician, whatever it is, all you got to say, mental health. If one of you guys doesn't go to work for the next 10 days, no call, no show, your boss is calling, blah, 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 he fires you, all you got to do is get a lawyer and say the magic words, mental health. I find that, I don't believe that shit. I don't believe you were suspended from the NBA for taking a doctor-prescribed mental health medication. That's bullshit, bro. That's bullshit. I don't buy that at all. Absolutely not. I don't buy that at all. I don't buy that at all. But it couldn't have been PEDs because he doesn't play like he's on PEDs. Couldn't have been Coke. Doesn't play like he's on Coke. Coca-Cola. You can't get suspended for being on weed anymore. But he does play like he's high. So, my new guess is that Paul George was high at practice and Nick Nurse kicked him out. I don't have anything else. I don't have anything else to say on it. There's no other information. But I guess we got to look at it this way. Are the Sixers good without Paul George? Well, we're about to find out, right? You know, I've said many times now this season that Paul George, I've said many times this season that Paul George doesn't really affect this team $50 million worth, good or bad. He plays like a Kelly Oubre. He plays like an $8 million player. Is Kelly Oubre even an $8 million player? I don't know. He plays like a $5 million player for $50 million. I don't think Paul George swings the pendulum either way. And I don't think he's worth that contract. He's not even worth half that contract at this point. He's just not. Outside of what the Paul George stands say on Twitter, he's not worth half of that contract. So we're about to find out if the Sixers even need him. Because watch this, if they go play 25 games without Paul George and they look better, there's a discussion to be had. But you also got to look at it like this. Now, did he just tank his own trade value? Did Paul George just tank his own trade value? If the 76ers were looking to move Paul George at the trade deadline, which I don't think they are because Daryl Morey is a psychopath and is more interested in defending his own reputation and proving to everyone that this was a good signing versus trading him at the trade deadline and getting off of the contract. So I don't think they were looking to trade him at the deadline anyway. And by the time the offseason comes around, this will have been basically forgotten about. And if the Sixers want to move in a different direction this offseason with 2 years left on Paul George's contract, maybe they can trade him. And if Paul George just sticks to this right here, this is all he has to stick to save the reputation. This is all he has to stick to. I had a mental health issue, and I took in the course of recently seeking treatment, I made the mistake of taking an improper medication. So the doctor prescribed it, not knowing it was banned by the NBA? That doesn't make sense. How would a doctor working with an NBA player not know what medications are banned by the NBA? I made a mistake of taking an improper medication. So there was proper medications and there was improper medications, and you made a mistake of taking an improper medication? So you knew which medications were banned by the NBA and you accidentally took one? In that regard, how do you accidentally take a medication? In my experience, every medication I've ever taken has a fucking label on it. Says exactly what it is. I made the mistake of taking an improper medication. Can't gaslight me, Paul George. But this is what he's going to stick to. He probably was high off his ass at practice and got in trouble for it. That's probably what happened. But this is what he's going to stick to. He had a mental health issue and he took an improper medication, which doesn't make sense because there's plenty of NBA players on SSRIs for anxiety and depression, and they're not failing drug tests because the NBA knows what anxiety and depression is. They know what SSRIs are. They know what medications doctors prescribe for mental health issues. These drugs are not banned by the NBA. This is bullshit, but this is what he's going to stick to. And if he sticks to this, it'll go away, and the Sixers can still trade him in the offseason. That's all I got. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for coming by the backup channel, DJ Eastwood TV on YouTube, while my main channel is locked currently. For those that don't know, I got an email about a sponsorship offer. I always get emails about sponsorship offers. It seemed legit. It sent me to a portal for a creator portal, and I've used creator portals before where a company connects brands with creators. It looked like a legit creator portal. I put my YouTube information in there, and immediately my phone was locked out of YouTube. My TV turned off because I was logged into YouTube TV. My son yelled 2 feet away because he was watching YouTube on a laptop, and it logged him out. And I realized immediately the email, my business email that I used to log into YouTube, was hacked by somebody, somehow, some way. Luckily, Google flagged it right away. These guys didn't get anything. Google flagged it immediately for suspicious activity and locked the channel. Because, I mean, if I log in with my IP address in Pennsylvania, in Hershey, Pennsylvania for 6 straight years, the same exact location, and then suddenly somebody changes my password in Russia, they're like, okay, suspicious activity, they locked it. So I've been in contact with Google. It's just like I make an email and then they reply once a day, basically. And so we're getting somewhere. Eventually, I think they're going to ask me to prove that it's mine. I mean, all you got to do is watch the videos, and then you can fucking FaceTime me if you want to. Obviously, it's me. And then we'll be back into that other YouTube channel. But for now, this is the YouTube channel where we're going live. DJ Eastwood TV, thank you for being here. And we will be live right here after the 76ers game tonight for Sixers post-game live. Thank you to Paul George for giving me some content to blow up this backup channel while I'm trying to get into the main channel. Hit the like button. 150 people live on a backup channel is pretty fucking good. Thank you guys for coming through, whether you saw it on Instagram or Twitter or wherever you found out I was going live on a backup channel. You guys are amazing. Thank you for the